Thank you everyone for joining today. We're going to get started. If you have a question during the presentation, please put it in the chat and we will answer them at the end as time allows. As a reminder, we will send you a link to the final recording and presentation with helpful resource links after the session. Today's 108 Degrees Digital Marketing presentation is about email deliverability, led by Marianne Pfeiffer. Marianne is a marketing professional passionate about helping her clients reach their goals. She is the founder and principal of 108 Degrees, a women-owned and women-led agency with over 20 years of outstanding service to small businesses, nonprofits, and educational institutions. She is also a MailChimp Pro partner with over 25 years of experience in email marketing and the author of Precision Email, 7 Lessons in Engagement Strategy. Today, Marianne leads our session as your marketing strategist, helping answer the digital marketing and brand questions that will lead you to success. So with that, Marianne, I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Lauren. And thank you, everybody, for joining today. And for those of you who are not joining us live, thanks for tuning in. Please feel free to send in your questions afterwards as well. Today, we are talking about a very hot topic for a lot of us in the last few months, which is email deliverability. And we're going to focus today on deliverability first and best practices so that we can help you level up your marketing. Now, maybe you're already having some problems, or maybe you're just afraid you're going to have problems and you're not really sure. Either way, what we want to do here is we want to implement some best practices. We're going to talk about strategies. We're going to talk about an action plan to get you started so that you can have a more successful email program. All right, so let's get started here. I'm going to start with a few disclaimers because there's a lot. I'm doing this in 30 minutes. There was an entire summit in Amsterdam a couple weeks ago on this. It was like multiple days long with people talking for a lot of hours. So disclaimer here. Deliverability is a bit of a black box. Like there's a lot of stuff that ISPs like Google and Yahoo and Microsoft don't tell us because they don't want spammers to know. The things that I'm talking about today are things that are best practices that are sort of industry known standard. There's more to it than what we're talking about here. There's more to it than even some of the experts in the industry know, because let's face it, if you're Google, are you going to tell all of your secrets to everyone about how somebody can get around your systems to get into an inbox? Of course you're not. So some of this we know because we are told, some of this we know because we infer through practice, but some of it is still not things we're going to discuss today because they're really not something that a lot of us know a lot about. It's things that we're learning over time. We're going to talk about best practices today. They are here for prevention. They are here to make sure that you don't break your domain. Now, if your domain is broken, it can be fixed. Ask me about that. You probably can't do it yourself because if you have reached the lowest levels of Google Postmaster Tools rating, you're in trouble. You need an expert. That's okay. Ask me if I can't help. I know someone who can. But we implement these best practices because what we want to happen is we want to make sure that we don't have a low rating, that we do reach the inbox. And most importantly to know in today's disclaimers is we're talking about permission-based email. We're not talking about cold email. In the B2B world, cold email is still a real thing. And it's how a lot of industries are going to grow their lists and grow their customer base. And that's fine. That's not what we're talking about today. Cold email plays by different rules. And there are a lot of other things that you have to consider. Maybe on another day, we'll talk about them. But today we're talking about your permission-based emails, your marketing emails, your e-commerce emails, your fundraising emails, those types of communications. The next thing I want to go into is I want to make sure you understand the difference between delivery and deliverability, because sometimes these words are used interchangeably. They are not the same thing. Your delivery rate was whether or not your email was received by the server of the inbox provider. And that's a report. You'll get a delivery rate or delivery information from your ESP, from your MailChimp, your Constant Contact, your HubSpot, whatever. They'll tell you the delivery because they get a signal from Comcast, from Gmail that says, yep, we got it. Okay. That's not deliverability. That's just saying you got past the firewall. Deliverability is what happens once it gets there. Does Gmail look at your email and say, oh, yes, I will pass this on to Kelly? Or does Gmail go, I got it, but it looks a little suspicious. I'm going to throw it in Kelly's spam folder. What we want to make sure is that you understand the difference, because when you look in your ESP and you look and you see a 99.9% rate, understand you're probably looking at the delivery rate, not the deliverability rate. and understand the difference so that you can understand when you see a problem. In your ESP, you're going to see that delivery, but you can find out that deliverability rate. There are additional tools that you can add on if you're having problems, if you feel like you're not getting the industry level of opens or you're not seeing the kind of performance from your list you expect to see. There are other tools that you can add on outside of your ESP that will give you that deliverability rate. I'm talking to you today about best practices. If you're here today or you're watching this recording, you probably already understand why you need to implement best practices. But this slide is for your boss. This slide is for the person that you have to justify your time to when you say, I've got to take some time to do X, Y, and Z on Marianne's action plan. And they're going to say, but why would you bother to do that? So the thing to know is that better inbox placement works across all providers. Typically, if you're having a hard time in Gmail and you improve your placement in Gmail, suddenly your Microsoft placement goes up as well, dramatically, right? Because when you implement best practices, they're best across the board. They work with pretty much all providers. When you improve the deliverability for your domain, which is some of the things we're going to talk about today, you're going to help all of your campaigns across the board. That means that you're improving deliverability for all of your marketing campaigns, for your e-commerce campaign. Even your transactional email might have a little bit of less of a problem if you've been having problems there. Best practices improve your brand reputation. Brand's important. Brand, for a lot of us who have completely online brands, brand is the thing that makes the difference in whether or not people trust you enough to buy from you or donate to your cause or give to what you're asking to give to. So these best practices will improve your brand reputation as well as placement. And in general, we know that email has some of the highest ROI of any type of digital marketing program. And so you will get better ROI from already what is a strong ROI-based program when you implement best practices. Also, it's never too late to improve your domain reputation. You may feel as though your domain reputation is just not as strong as it should be. And if you can see that data that proves that before you get into the slump where you're not making it into inboxes, start fixing it now, start implementing those best practices. So if you have concerns, and a lot of people genuinely have concerns because in the last few months, we've seen a lot of changes. And so if you've started to see declining responses, now is the time to improve that domain reputation, not after it has tanked. It's a lot cheaper too. All right, core strategies. These are the things that we need to think about in order to build better deliverability into our email. I'm going to start with some myths. There is no spoon, okay? Unsubscribes are bad. That's a myth. Unsubscribes are actually good for your domain reputation because it is a signal that says, I would rather not receive this anymore. I have received it. I have acknowledged what it is, and I've said it is not for me anymore. Okay. Unsubscribes are not bad for your domain. They are good for your domain and they are good for your reputation with your email service provider because it tells them that a valid person subscribed to the list who has then said that they don't want to receive something. That there are trigger words that will land you in the spam folder, like things like you can't use free in your subject line. There is no single word that is going to send you into the spam folder. There's not a singular one thing that is going to suddenly tank your domain. There are not trigger words, but there are behaviors and actions that you can take that if you add a trigger word on top of it, that might start landing you into the spam folder. But if you are otherwise using best practices and the things we're going to talk about today, there's no trigger word that's going to land you into the spam folder. The other myth that promotions folder is the same thing as the spam folder. No, the promotions folder is a completely different thing. In the last couple months, we've seen Apple on iPhone roll out a promotions tab similar to what Gmail did a few years back. Wrote an article about this. It's on LinkedIn. It's on our website if you want to take a look at it. But essentially, the promotions folder is the place where people go to receive promotions. The promotions folder was created with the idea that when people sign up, when you go to the Gap or Walmart or wherever you sign up for email, that you would get your email and would go to that tab because that's where you expect to see sale information, coupon information, shopping information, promotion information. Okay. Now, you don't have to use this promotions folder as a user. Some people don't. And for those people who don't use a promotions folder or who otherwise indicate in their promotions folder that they want to receive things in the main inbox, things go into the main inbox. But if you use a promotions folder, it's because that's where you want your promotions to go. It means that when I'm going to shop online, I'm going to go there to look for the discounts, to look for the coupons, to look for the sales, to look for the shopping thing I was looking for. So the promotions folder is not a punishment by Google or by Apple, and it is not the spam folder. It is Google or Apple acknowledging that this is the type of email that you're sending. And that's where this particular user would like to see that information show up. So it's not the same thing. Don't be worried about it. Don't be upset about it. There's another myth that you can get to 100% deliverability. I'm afraid that's a myth. And the reason is, even with the best domain reputation, there's always going to be something. I've seen 99% deliverability. But generally, you're not going to get to 100% deliverability because there's always going to be something that's going on at a particular provider at a particular point in time that will filter you out of someone's inbox. Okay. There will be some reason why. And they're all really valid reasons. And it's not going to happen every single time to you with that particular recipient necessarily, but you're not going to get 100% deliverability. If you're seeing deliverability in the high 90s, you're doing fine. Let's talk a little bit on the tech side. I won't go too much into the tech side, but I want to talk about one of the important pieces of tech that most marketers can understand, and that's authentication protocols. So you may have seen or heard of SPF. This stands for Sender Policy Framework. Why do you care? Sender Policy Framework tells the ISPs which servers are authorized to send emails for the domain. Okay. It helps the interwebs understand who you are and if you are who you say you are. Then there's something called DKIM, or Domain Keys Identified Mail. This is a digital signature and it verifies your authenticity. Okay. You probably heard about DKIM requirements with Microsoft recently or Yahoo. There's another thing called DMARC, domain-based message authentication, reporting, and conformance. And I am reading those off the screen because none of us call it that. We all call it SPF, DKIM, and DMARC. Okay. This is instructions for email handling. So should email go to the server and the server says that person's not here anymore, okay, and it goes back to you, okay, DMARC says what happens when it gets there. Do we tell someone? Do we stop something? Do we quarantine it? Do we just ignore it? Okay, these are 3 required authentication protocols on your domain. As a marketer, you don't have to understand all the intricacies behind these. But what you have to understand as a marketer is that you need these set up. They need to be set up correctly on your domain. And if you are using more than one ESP, if you are using, especially we see this a lot with donors and fundraising and e-commerce, where you have sort of general marketing brand messages going through one ESP, but your communications that are focused on transactional go through something else. And that's fine. You can do that, but make sure that these are set up for all of those different systems. You don't have to do it. Find the technical person in charge of your domain. They should be able to help you out. There's one more called BIMI, Brand Indicators Message Identification. Again, we just call it BIMI. Put an asterisk next to this one because this is a nice to have, not a need to have. This allows the sender to display the brand logo next to the emails and supported clients. So you've probably seen these from Walmart, Amazon, all the big brands. You're going to start to see them. The little circle, if you're using Apple Mail or Gmail, there's a little circle that kind of identifies the sender, right? And it has their logo in it. So BIMI is great. If you are a major brand, you should be using it. If you are a smaller brand but can afford to use it because it's not free, it's all these other things, it just requires the setup of your IT department. BIMI does require some external services to help you with that, so it costs a little bit of money. It's not a need to have, it's a nice to have, but if you're a major brand and you need that brand identification in the inbox, you should consider using it. All right. That's enough of the technical stuff. There's a lot more we could talk about on the technology side in terms of IP addresses and other types of signals, but we're not going to go into that because as marketers, you're not really dealing with that, but those 4 things you do need to make sure that you set up. Next thing in terms of deliverability, we're going to talk list management. And that means building your list with clear permission. Are you using double opt-in? In the United States, we don't typically use double opt-in. We typically are a single opt-in kind of country, and that's okay. But you do need to make sure you have some level of confirmation that the person does want to get these emails. We'll talk more about that in the action plan, but think about it. Either use double opt-in or build some kind of confirmation willingness into your list so that you are building a list that has clear permission from your domain to be in that recipient's inbox. List management also means evaluation and cleaning. It means taking a look at your list, and this is the hardest part. The hardest part is looking at this list that you've spent so much time and effort building up. And then you find out that 10% of it's doing nothing. And you're like, I don't want to clean them off. They're nice people. I like them. They've answered my emails in the past, just not in the last, I don't know, 3 years. Okay, it's really hard, but you do need to evaluate your list and you need to clean it. You need to measure your engagement with the audience. You need to, and we'll talk more about doing this with your action plan, but you need to make sure that you're not sending to dead names. You're not sending to people that don't open the email anymore. Listen, do you have Hotmail on your list? There's only two people who still use Hotmail: robots and super old rich people. So if you're a nonprofit and you have super old rich people on your list and they have a Hotmail address, figure out who they are and get rid of the rest of them. Okay? There's not a lot of people, especially in a B2B world, using Hotmail anymore. You got Hotmail on your list and you're having deliverability problems, try to start filtering out some of the Hotmail names and see what happens. Okay? You've got to look at your list. You've got to evaluate them. You've got to say goodbye. You've got to Marie Kondo your list regularly to make sure that what's there is supposed to be there. You need to be monitoring your bounces, your soft and your hard, and your spam reports. And this is like one of the most boring things in email, but it is also one of the most important. You need to see who's bouncing. When you send information out, who didn't get it? Why didn't they get it? Who reported you for spam? Where did they come from? Is that entire list potentially bad? All right, content strategies you need to think about. A welcome series, an onboarding series. When people enter your list, they sign up on your website. What if they don't hear from you for 90 days? Are they going to remember who you are? Well, if you send them a welcome series or onboard them somehow, they're more likely to. You need to build opportunities for engagement with your different segments. So that could mean replying to something. That could mean answering a survey. That could mean, click through to win a prize, whatever it is. Build opportunities for engagement. Think about what kind of strategies you can have for that. Also really important, when people are not opening or engaging with your list, we call them a lapsed subscriber. What kind of automations can you set up for your lapsed subscribers to bring them back to life, to make your list cleaning and management a little bit easier down the road? I could do a whole session, and I think I am doing a whole session on this down the road as far as best practices for design and rendering. This means things like rendering on mobile devices, dark mode, variations of Outlook, understanding which email clients are on your list and what does your email look like for them. All of those design and rendering aspects need to be considered as you're building your content so that you build content that makes sense. All right. That's a lot to think about, I know. We're going to talk about all of those things in terms of an action plan so that we can take action to improve our deliverability and implement best practices. And it can be one thing at a time. Take a bullet, work on that bullet, and then when that one's implemented, start working on the next one. All right. First thing I want you to do before you do anything else is I want you to look at your tech stack. I want you to look at your domains. I want you to look at your authentication protocols and make sure everything is set up correctly. Now, if you're not sure what it's supposed to be, this is where you loop in your IT team or your email strategist or people who are sort of like more technical specialists on this. But make sure that things are set up in place correctly. Go to Google Postmaster Tools. You might need the help of your webmaster or your IT team on this one, but set up an account with Google Postmaster Tools and monitor your domain. See what it's doing. For most of us, Gmail is the major provider, okay? And so we want to make sure that the Google Postmaster Tools is set up so we can keep an eye on it. Run a blacklist check and resolve anything that's outstanding. Now, hopefully, if you're in good shape, you don't have anything showing up on a blacklist check. But if something does show up, absolutely resolve that. Before you take any other actions, you've got to get this stuff cleaned up because everything else you do won't matter if this is not working the way it should. Now, remember when I said make sure your domain protocols are right? Okay, make sure that's also right in your ESPs, right? Any ESP that you're using, make sure that everything's in sync with your domain. Because if the DKIM in your MailChimp says one thing, but the DKIM on your domain says something else, it's not going to work. And finally, consider and discuss with your IT team if you should be using a subdomain for marketing emails. If you have a sales team that sends a lot of cold email, or if you have a very large list, or if you're sending a lot of different kinds of email and you don't control all of the lists, and especially if you don't necessarily trust how the full list is being built that's outside of your control, Think about using a subdomain to separate your email from all the rest of the email so that when it goes out, a bad reputation hit doesn't hit your program. All right, next, in terms of list management, take a look at all of the sources that you have for the lists you have and confirm permission. What trade show did it come from? What event were you at? Which website is it coming from? Make sure that you actually do have permission and then run a scrub. If addresses are invalid or expired, tank them. It's not worth hurting your domain to send to people who are never going to open anything anyway because they don't exist. Now, evaluate your subscribers for your engagement levels. First, do the first two things, but then evaluate your engagement levels. If people are lapsed, if they are not engaged, segment them off. We're going to deal with them separately. We're going to re-engage them. And if we can't re-engage them, we're going to archive them. Don't let that hurt your domain. You have a whole bunch of people who want to get your emails. Don't let the people that don't seem to want to get your emails hurt you from reaching the ones who do. Rinse and repeat. You're going to run through this process a couple of times a year. Now, reviewing your list sources is really painful the first time, but after that, it should get easy once you understand where everything is coming from. But running the scrubs, evaluating for engagement, and re-engaging subscribers, you need to do that a few times a year, at least twice a year. Now you need to evaluate content. So consider accessibility guidelines. We'll have another workshop on this to improve performance. Accessibility, what do I mean? If people are seeing things in different devices with different screen readers, with different vision issues, you need to be the same type of accessibility guidelines you think about for your website, you need to implement in email. Build engagement opportunities. Remember, we talked about having them reply, having them fill out a survey, having them enter a contest, give them a reason to click. Okay, give them a reason to engage with you. It can't always be donate. It can't always be shop. It can't always be give me money. Sometimes it could be giving something back to them. Find a way to get them to engage with you because by building your engagement, you build your deliverability. Finally, review your email templates and campaigns against your most popular email clients. So, for example, if most of your list is using Outlook, accept the fact that a lot of your emails are not loading images immediately. So look at what your email looks like when it doesn't load images and say, hey, what can we do to make them want to load those images? Okay. Look at what your email looks like in dark mode. Understand if most of your people are using mobile devices, a lot of them are using dark mode. Take a look at your content in the different scenarios that your subscribers are in so that you can provide them with the right kind of content in the right kind of presentation that will entice them to respond. All right, I know that was a lot, and I know it's a lot of work. If you need more resources, we have some here. You'll get a copy of the presentation. Information on Google Postmaster Tools. You can go ahead and set that up. A few different articles on email deliverability. And then Lauren Meyer has forgotten more about deliverability than most of us will know. So look for her on the interwebs. She's a great resource. And then there's a great guide here for email deliverability for marketers as well. All right. So different things for you to read. And our next workshop is going to be about branding in the inbox, about consistency and impact. So we'll send you that information as well. But that's all I have for today for presentation. All right.
In our case, thank you everyone for joining us today. If you'd like to learn more about how to take your marketing to the next level, you can check out our YouTube channel with recordings from our past workshops and other highlights. And also, as Marianne said earlier, we will be sending out the presentation with all those amazing resource links that she's included.
Thanks for coming, everybody.
Thanks.